Being a chamber member is amazing, first off.
We love being members of the chamber.
Peyton Fun Ceramics has been a member of the chamber since the inception of the company. And we couldn't have grown to the level that we have without our chamber membership.
Our company and staff very much values the chamber relationship that we have and membership that we have. And relationship really is the right word. Our staff really talks about the relationship they've built.
The chamber provides a ton of resources, and it's a great way to get out there, network, get some business and learn a lot about the area and just business in general.
For me to have a presence here locally, the chamber helps me with that so much.
The chamber only really works based on relationships. And once you focus on developing relationships and not just promoting yourself, then everything starts to work a lot better.
This episode was recorded February of 2025. For updates, visit roanokesmallbusiness.org. In this episode, we discuss setting up your business plan, how to prepare yourself and your plan for various funding sources, and about business advising that can help you succeed. We're joined by Anthony Grafsky, the NRV Business Advisor with the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley branch of the SBDC. Let's get into the episode. Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communications in the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Business 101 series. Today I'm joined by...
I'm Anthony Grafsky with the Small Business Development Center.
Awesome, Anthony. So for anyone who's not familiar with the SBDC, could you tell us what the SBDC is, what you do, and kind of your service area?
Yeah, absolutely. So the SBDC is, our office is part of Virginia's SBDC, which then rolls up to America's SBDC. And I like to think of us kind of as the operational arm of the Small Business Administration. And so that's where, about 40% of our funding comes from is an SBA grant. The rest of our funding comes from localities, some corporate sponsorships, things like that. But what we do is really awesome. That is to provide no cost business advising to small businesses throughout Roanoke and the Greater New River Valley. My service area focuses on businesses here in the New River Valley. So everything from Floyd down to Pulaski and up into Giles County and everything in between.
And I say this as, not only a small business owner here, but someone who's used the SBDC for those advising services. It's really great, if nothing else, someone that can listen to your ideas and be able to go, maybe we should look at different avenues and different things. So a lot of what we're going to focus on today kind of builds off of some of the episodes we've already had. If you've not already watched our previous episodes, make sure you check out the one with Miles from the town of Christiansburg, Angie, the town of Blacksburg, and Leo Pretty with the Regional Commission. A lot of really is with Leo's episode, we talked about the research that needs to go into starting a small business, making sure you're looking at the right place. Do you have the market you need? The next step, at least in my mind, is looking at the business plan. So on the most basic principles, what is a business plan? Why is a business plan important?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you hit on a lot of good things, and some of those elements, looking at the market, who are our customers, things like that, are some of those essential elements that are going to go into making a business plan. And, that's something that we see a lot in the SBDC is we get people that have an idea and they want to start a business and they're just looking for direction on how to get that going. And so, obviously there's some of the more nuts and bolts of how do you start a business and the kind of legal things and registrations. But, before you register a business, you probably want to have a good idea of what am I doing? Who am I doing it for? And most importantly, how am I going to make money? Mm-hmm. And that's where that business plan comes into play. So there's a couple different kinds of business plans. There's a simple business plan. And really the focus of a simple business plan, it's more of an internal guiding document for a business, for an organization. And that's where you don't necessarily, either you're self-funding or you don't need a lot of capital to get started. And then there's a more in-depth, detailed business plan. And that's a business plan that, just like I said, it's going to go deeper into a lot of these areas, because the ultimate goal of that business plan is sharing it either with investors, with a bank, something like that, because you need capital into the business to get started.
And when looking at those pieces of the business plan, let's start with a simple. I know formats can shift, can change, but I want to kind of talk about that, because when Leo and I talked, when we talked to people in case, a lot of things that I'll say is you need to be very specific, because yes, we all want business from everyone. That, of course, that's the thing. But if you can't find your target audience, it's important. I think the same thing is true in a business plan. Yes, if I'm opening a coffee shop, my business plan is to sell coffee. But what is more than that? So kind of talk me through the format of a simple business plan, and then we'll break into the other one when we talk about funding.
Sure thing. Yeah, so the simple business plan is, like I said, that, but it does dive into a couple of specific areas. And so let's take your coffee shop example, right? We're selling coffee, but that's one of those decisions. Are we just selling coffee? Are we selling food? When are we open? So those are the kinds of things that a business plan is going to start to dive into. What are the products and or services that we're selling? So really defining, what are we? What is our business? What are we in the business of doing? And then doing a market analysis. So what is the market? Am I serving the people that live within a couple of blocks of here? Am I trying to get people from all over my city, my town? What are those traffic patterns? When are people commuting? Do we have foot traffic? Do we have car traffic? And going out and looking to those data sources and starting to assemble data, right? And so when I think of a business plan, it's a thought exercise that really makes you think about, what are we doing? Who are we doing it for? And then from a marketing perspective, and that's kind of that third essential element of a simple business plan, how are we going to get these people in the doors? Or how are they going to find us? And so how do we connect our customers with our products or services?
And with what we talked in the last episode, one of those was determining your location. And I think that third part of that business plan is probably what will impact that the most. Is, we said this in the last episode too, but if you're a coffee shop, are you going to be somewhere that needs to have foot traffic? Are you just going to plan on people searching Google for a coffee shop? Versus if you're an accountant, you're more likely to have people come to you kind of wherever you are. An accountant's not sitting in a storefront being like, man, I hope someone walks in today.
Right.
So then the next piece, we're getting more complex. Talk to me a little bit about the funding aspect and how you would change that business plan, then the more complex business plan, looking at how you're trying to get funding. Because, as we talked in the last episode, there are grants all over the place that are available. There are the traditional loans that you can go through the bank. If you've got the personal financing and you've got the money, hey, hit me up. So talk to me a little bit about those aspects of the more complex business plan.
Yeah, and so the complex or a more comprehensive business plan, it's going to take those elements of that simple business plan, and it's going to dive really deep into those. But then it's also really going to start to get into the financial aspects of the business, right? And so when you start with a detailed business plan, the first step in that is what is our business? Who are we? What are we doing? Who are we doing it for? And really identifying that market and why you think, one, that there's a need, or two, why we can fill that need or do it better than the others that are already out there. So you're just given a quick snapshot of what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're going to do it. And then you're going to start to dive into those other aspects, the market analysis. What is the market for this product or service? Is it Is it growing? Is it flat? Is it shrinking? You probably don't want to be necessarily getting into a business that's shrinking. That's not a very sustainable business plan, or doesn't make for a very sustainable business plan. And then, your customers, and really starting to build out profiles of who are my target customers, what are their preferences, what are the things that they like to do. You can call it a persona, a profile, whatever you want to do, but really, I see a business plan and a strategic plan are similar in the sense that, like, it's a framework, it's a decision set that we're making decisions on the things that we are or are not doing. And so if you're chasing every customer, your product or service might not appeal to any of them because it's become so generic, so vanilla, if you will, as opposed to, hey, these are the people that we're going after, and this is how our product specifically serves them. And so once you have your market and your customers, how you're gonna acquire those customers, through your different marketing channels, things like that, and then you start to dive into the financials. And this is how we're gonna monetize or make money in the business. And so, you could have a business plan. You could be developing a business plan because you're acquiring a business, and so you want to have some historical financial performance. But then looking forward, after I acquire this business, how are we going to continue to either sustain or grow this business, and increase the profits, pay back that loan, pay back our investors, or if you're starting from scratch, it's here are our startup costs. These are the things that we need to invest in, and then you got to have working capital, right? Until that revenue starts coming in the door. So you got to be able to keep the lights on, keep your people paid.
Right.
So you need some working capital. But then you're forecasting out into the future, 3 to 5 years, and these things are all going to evolve. I think that's one important thing about a business plan is it shouldn't be a static document. It needs to be a living document that changes as the market changes, and whether the customers are changing, whether the overall landscape of the business is changing. And so you need to keep that updated. But, looking in that initial 3 to 5 years, here's what our financial projections look like. And so then from an investor's point of view, whether that investor is an individual, a group of people, or a bank, is this business going to be able to make those debt service payments? Right. Is it sustainable? Is it going to be here in 3 to 5 years when this loan comes due? And so you've got, what it is, who our customers are, how we're going to get those customers, how we're going to make money, and then you want to come back and write a summary, right? And so it's funny that it goes at the beginning of the business plan, but you've got to kind of go through this exercise of doing these things in order to know, okay, so in 2 to 3 pages, all those things.
All that's there, yeah.
Yep.
And I like that you talked about that being a living, breathing document, because I was going to ask, do you have a certain timeline you would suggest people kind of go back and look at it? Is it specifically every 3 to 5 years, or is it something that is more reactionary based on trends you're seeing in the business?
Yeah, I mean, you should be looking at your business plan, I'd say, at least once a year. But if you're diligent in running your business, if you're looking at the numbers each month, and if you notice that trends are either deviating from what you originally thought they were going to be, you're not hitting your numbers, you got to start asking those questions, why, and reacting accordingly. And so that may be, well, we were targeting one segment of customers, but it turns out we have all these other people that are buying it that we didn't even think about. And so is there a whole other market that maybe you had ignored or didn't think about? And so is there an opportunity for us to pivot into that, right? And so you want to make sure that you're putting good money into good,
right? Yeah,
and not into bad.
Yeah, I think going back to the coffee shop example, it's one of those that when you look at it, you can say, great, I want my target audience to be students. But then as you're getting into things, you're seeing more young professionals are coming in, the students, and the young professionals are there all day long, but they're buying, a cup of coffee every other hour. They're buying lunch, versus the student came in at 8 a.m., they paid for 1 cup of coffee, and then they studied for 8 hours. you have to be able to take that trajectory and go, okay, maybe my marketing budget shouldn't be spent towards those students. Maybe I need to be spending that towards the young adults. So breaking that into the marketing aspect a little bit, why and how should someone go about breaking down as specific as they can? I know we've talked about why it's important, but the how aspect, I think, is something that people struggle with. I'll use my wife as an example. When we were looking at her, when she took over the company, we kind of talked about, hey, this is our target audience. And she was like, well, I don't like that we're just posting things targeted towards women. And I was like, well, I understand that, but that's the target audience. We can post for everyone. And like you said, that may not have the response. So how does someone go about actually looking at that if they've just had the idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I'm a data guy. I love data, right? And so it may start that you're having the conversation with your friends, with your peers, you know, trying to find a group of people that you can use as a sounding board, like the SBDC, right? You know, and those are things that we get a lot. And so, you know, having those conversations, bouncing those ideas, getting different perspectives. You know, if you're in business, send out surveys to your current clients, right? And test some of your assumptions or some of your ideas and get that feedback. And okay, are we hitting the mark? Are we off a little bit? And making those adjustments. And you know, I don't think that they need to be these large scale overhaul type changes, right? If you're keeping your finger on the pulse, then you can make incremental changes that lead to more sustainable outcomes, as opposed to, well, I tried this, that didn't work, so now I'm going to jump over here. And so just being more maybe a little more surgical with some of your things, as opposed to taking broad strokes.
Right. I like the data aspect too, because it's something that we talk about when you're looking at your marketing analytics. If you don't have a reason, if you haven't done anything different, if you haven't made a change that you can go back and look and say, oh, that led to that spike. That spike doesn't really matter because you can't learn anything from it. It's great. Would love the spike, but if you can't learn something from it, you can't then replicate it or make changes to it. So when you're going in and you're looking at those aspects as well, on the funding side, what is information that you think, and we are not tax professionals, we're not money professionals, but what are things that you think people should make sure they've got in that business plan that really are attracting if they're going for the bank versus if, hey, I'm looking to get grant for most of my funding, or hey, I'm looking to get privatized, you know, a private investor. Are there any changes that people should look at as they're making those business plans?
That's a good question. And while there may be some nuance to that, I think that, you know, a really important aspect of those are, what are the assumptions that you're making behind those, right? If my projections are saying that I'm going to grow revenue 100% per year, you know, double my revenue every year, and there's not a sound assumption base underlying that, then, you know, it's, well, I needed to show that I was going to make this much money, so how much do I have to grow my revenue, as opposed to, I'm going to target, you know, or we're going to go into market one in year one, and then we're going to expand to a whole other market in year two, and that's where these revenue, you know, where that revenue growth is coming from. And so, you know, for a bank, for an individual investor, like, I think that they're going to really want to see, has this person done their homework? What are the assumptions that they're making in these revenue projections? How realistic is it? You know, if going back to that, I'm going to double my revenue, but if I'm in a market that is projected to grow 2 or 3% a year, you know, how doubling, are you doing that? And so, and so whether it's the markets that you're going into, the customer segments, or, you know, I'm going for a premium version, you know, I want to be in a niche where I can charge a premium or something like that. You those are the things that you need to make sure. Those are the bases that you want to make sure that you're covering in that business plan.
And I think that's where it's important to look at your competition too, because I don't think competition should be preclude anyone from going into business if you've done it right. Because you can come in, and if your competition is already at that premium level, well, who's servicing those that aren't able to afford the premium? Are they able to then sustain me on that level? I do think there's a certain point of that you have to look at as a business owner and go, well, just because I'm at a lower level doesn't mean that I'm going to be getting the same consistency in work. And sometimes, at least in my experience, those that are not willing to pay as much for your service as a professional are sometimes the ones that expect more work from you because they don't fully trust you as a professional yet. So careful with how you're setting your business up there. Outside of that, outside of business plans and those pieces, the SBDC, you've got a ton of workshops that you do. Talk about some of those as well. That way, I want people to know, hey, I'm not just coming to talk to Anthony for fun, though I'm sure you can have fun. But beyond that, where you're going and you're doing your work in the post-advising meeting, where does some of that lie?
Yeah. And so, I have clients that come from all walks of business. Again, from I have an idea, how do I get started, to we've been in business for several years, we're doing tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, kind of thing, but we need help with this certain aspect of it. And so the SBDC has, well, not only do I have 4 other advisors in my office that I can lean on and ask questions that have seen these things before, have other experiences, but then we have the state SBDC. So we have over 100 advisors across the state, and each advisor has a profile of their strengths and things like that. So if I'm looking for somebody in a very particular industry or skill set, I can reach out and connect with those advisors. We have subscriptions to services for looking at industries. I've talked a little bit about industries and is it growing, is it not, things like that. So we can give our clients some benchmarks. And then, yes, we locally put on our own educational events, and then the state has educational events. Many of those are available on demand. Others are live courses. We have it's a free course. It's called Smart Start, and you can go online, register for Smart Start, and it kind of takes you through some of these things, but it's everything from how to register your business with the state and, getting a business license, getting set up for taxes, all those kinds of things. And so these are, it's a whole menu of resources that we can provide to small business owners.
And so I think that's something for anyone listening. If you're located in the town of Christiansburg, located in the town of Blacksburg, as I mentioned, we have those episodes with Angie and Miles. But if you are in Montgomery County or you're just outside of Montgomery County and those services aren't applicable to you because you're not in those locations, the SBDC is a great resource because you service the whole New River Valley, and beyond, realistically. But so for anyone looking at those, that's where you can go. So, Anthony, looking at Montgomery County, kind of as we wrap up here, what are some things that people or business owners may not necessarily know from the county perspective that you want them to know?
Well, so before I touch on that, I will say I've worked collaboratively with Angie and with Miles in the towns, and so we take those opportunities to play off of each other's strengths. And so even though I might have clients in either of the towns, I always want to make sure that they know that those resources are available, and that's been reciprocal as well. Yeah. After Miles or Angie have worked with a client, and if there's something outside of their wheelhouse, they refer to me. So we have that collaborative relationship. From the county's perspective, depending on the kind of, for our true, small businesses, the economic development, the EDAs, the economic development authorities, they're typically going to hand off to us, right? Because they're chasing those big, big projects or working with existing industries to try to grow those businesses. So those are always a good place to check in,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you are looking for like a physical location.
Mm.
But always know that the SBDC is here and available to help out with any business questions that you have.
I love collaborative because I think so far that's been a through line of all the episodes so far. I think it's a testament to what we do in this region, that you can get a lot farther, in my opinion, through collaboration than just treating competition as a full competition.
Yeah.
We've got people here at the chamber that they are direct competitors, but they're offering advice because there's enough for all of us to go around. So anything else with SBDC you want people to know before we sign off?
Like I said, our advising sessions are always free to our clients. And I think one of the other great aspects of our services is that they're confidential. Like, we're not sharing individual business information with the localities, whether it's the towns or the county EDAs. We roll that information up at the end of the year to report our impact, right? So the big things that we're focused on are either creating or retaining jobs, growing revenue for our small business owners, and getting capital for those business owners, whether it's through loans, grants, things like that. And so we keep all that information confidential, of course, unless we get that permission from our clients to share that. So each year we do like our annual report, and we like to include client success stories, and so we'll reach out to them before we would ever share any of that information.
Well, I thank you for being here. I think everyone, even if you've already got a strong support circle around you, should go meet with the SBDC. It's free. You really don't have anything to lose. But having a business advisor is something that I think is very important for any small business owner, regardless of where you are in your stage, because sometimes you just need that sounding board, like you said earlier. So thank you again, Anthony, for being here.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all of those things so that you are able to get the live updates when we post one of our new workshops, one of the new eggs and issues, anything like that. We appreciate it. In the meantime, go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.